Welcome back to another edition of Joe on the Job Site. Continuing with my guest, Mark Follis, we have a few other topics we like to cover. And one of them I like to talk about a lot is the difference in technology from the time you started work up to today's date. And like one of mine, I mentioned earlier about having the pull chain. I still have my 200-foot chain, and somewhere around the house is the chain pullers.
Yep.
And it has the leather strap on the end for you to hold that thing when you're pulling 200 feet.
And got to keep track of the temperature and sag and all kinds of other factors.
Yep. You got to 200 feet means 200 feet. They don't care about the sag. They don't care about, we called it the droop or the drape.
Sag, same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And, we had the dumpy levels and verniers and stuff on them, and you had to read them with a magnifying glass. And, I mentioned earlier that they actually came out with a total station, which was sweet. And now look at the advancements you had so far.
It's crazy. And I feel fortunate because I started in 92 and we still pulled chain. And then in 94, Ben Blackburn, I used to work for, bought his first total station. And it's funny because Ben, we used it and we would shoot the distances. And if it was less than 100 foot, you still had to measure it with a chain because he didn't trust it.
Wow.
So I would start writing it in the book. I would write the chain distance and the EDM, electronic distance measurement, and the same every time, maybe a hundredth difference. And finally, it took him a year or so. But he said, if it's under 100 foot, you're still going to pull steel chain. So that was the old school stuff. What I was getting at is I feel fortunate because I started and saw how they used to do it. Not pulling Gunther's chain, but, that's how they surveyed Florida. But I got to see the advancements in real time. And it is impressive. And, went from the total station to the robotic total station, then the GPS. It's insane, the things we can do now with the GPS. And then just the laser scanners and it's impressive. It really is. And I feel lucky. I got to witness all that and kind of see the progression of the technology, but it's pretty astounding. The technology, I mean, for people that love tech, maybe they should look into this type of work.
Remember when we carried these?
Yes, sir.
And as we did our work, we had to record in there. And then one page was the drawing and the other page was the math.
That's correct.
And nowadays, it's all done automatically. There isn't a strain for the math. It's calculated for you.
We're still old school on some of that. You're right. A lot of it is data collected digitally. A lot of it, though, like the basic stuff, what point did you set your instrument on? What point did you backside? What point did you get your third point check? We still want that in the book.
Yeah.
Mainly because that's a legal document. And I keep telling our guys that, that is a legal document. And God forbid we end up in a courtroom. And I'm not going to say it because I don't want to jinx myself. But God forbid if we end up in a courtroom, that's the first thing they ask for is the field books.
Yeah.
And it's still, you're right, a lot of it is data collected with digital data now. But still, we kind of hold their feet to the fire. We still got a little old school in us.
A little old school just to make sure.
Well, and I don't pick on them because I guess if I were in their same situation, I would consider myself lucky. And I tell them, well, you guys are really lucky that, but I don't harp on them how, it was always uphill both directions. We cut line all day.
Yeah.
I don't do that, but they are exposed to some amazing technologies. And I tell them, you guys are pretty lucky. A lot of people don't even know this stuff exists. And that's why we were talking earlier about getting new employees or bringing in the younger generation. I think the thing with the surveyor is people automatically, when I was younger, the people would say, "Oh, you're the guy that stands by the side of the road looking through the thingy," because that's how they see surveyors.
They don't understand what they're doing.
And that makes sense. And a lot of times surveyors are kind of a hindrance because they're holding up from where I need to go. These people are in my way, or you're surveying the neighbor's property and you're in the middle of a dispute and they're fighting with each other. And what I'm getting at though is I think if more people knew the amount of technologies that we really have at our disposal, a lot more people would probably be interested. Now, it's tough in Florida. Florida is a very brutal place to work outside.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I wouldn't want to be in my home state of Michigan in the middle of the winter surveying. I mean,
Yeah, could you? Could you even work
apparently,
in the winter with
I
12
think
inches of snow?
I think they take a couple months off each winter, and so I mean, you can always put on more clothes, but Florida does have its own challenges. Of course, the snakes, the spiders, the alligators. It seems like everything's against you. And it pretty much is. Not only that, but the people, the traffic, just everything. But yeah, the technology is astounding. And
I remember having to do the math, having to calculate your points and your angles and all your distances.
yeah,
And I went and bought a HP Hewlett Packard calculator, and it had a Kogo chip in it. And I could sit at my desk, calculate everything up, and load it by point number in there. So I could go out and set on any point, back sight, check sight, and shoot all day long, so much faster.
that was a wise investment. I have one too. I've had mine for 26 years, and it still works. I'd see people looking for them online.
Well, mine quit working. It's still got the Kogo chip, and I think I had a math chip and a chemistry chip in it at that time. And what's funny is I wanted to send it back to HP and see if they'd make it work for me, because I loved the calculator.
Oh, absolutely.
It had the laser reader on it,
Yeah.
so you could link it
Yeah.
and do information. But I'll have to cross that one. And then, when we had to do the chaining and stuff, so you would lay out. So we were laying out a project in one of the theme parks, and it was a radius, and we had to set the inside form line. So you set the inside edge of the foundation footing, and then you set the outside edge, and then you put offsets on it all, because half of them were gone anyway. And then we had to do the inside control, and it was all chain and tape. And then after a while, they got their surveyor lined up and got him loaded in, and he came out, set a total station in the middle of the thing, right, dropping on top of it. Didn't have to use a plumb bob, just looked down the sight,
Plummet,
and it picked up the pin.
optical plummet.
Yeah, optical plummet. And you just you got it once you got it and you found it. And then, so we had to mark off like windows and penetrations where you'd have to pull over, chain up, and do all the measurements. It just go tink. There it is.
Yeah. And that was how many years ago? So now it's astounding. The robots that we use are just really impressive and very accurate. And we use 1 second robots. So that's a second is a measure angle. It's a measurement of angle.
And
right?
the time saving element on those is phenomenal. But
absolutely.
what do you think of the accuracy?
Well, that's where I was going. It's a 1 second instrument. So 1 second of angle in 30 miles is about 6 inches. So that's how skinny a second is. So when we first got the 1 second robots, I was very skeptical. Vertically, not so much horizontally. Horizontal is pretty good no matter what. Vertically, in the past, they were fairly weak, not the strongest. That's why you have digital levels. But I really got to say, we bought these I won't say the manufacturer, but the 1 second robotic instruments. Of course, they do. You're right. They save time, and the thing tracks you all the time. It lets you know when the batteries are low. It's constantly talking to the controller. And you can do calculations right there. You can tell it, go turn here and show me where this other point is. That's just on your map, and it'll turn, and it's just astounding. Excuse me.
Yeah. I remember years ago when we put a road in, we'd have to set the pins, the hubs.
Blue
and I think
tops.
they were called blue
Blue
tops,
tops.
blue tops and white tops and
Yep.
so on and so forth. And you'd spin, and then you strung between them.
Yeah.
And now I remember doing that with 3-man crews.
Yeah.
And now I watched on one of the projects I completed recently, one man,
Yeah.
he came out, he set up that receiver in one spot, and it was barricaded and marked off. That was his point to use for the project. It was 18 acres, 12 acres, something like that. And he went around by himself and set all the curbs, all the storm inlet boxes. Just one man did it
Yeah.
instead of 2 and 3 men.
That's where I was going with the 1 second instruments, because I didn't trust them at first. So we would lay stuff out and then check it with a level.
Yeah.
We elevate with the robot, check it with the level. And after a month or so, just quit checking. The stuff was really, it's impressive.
It's a whole lot easier on your brain, in my opinion.
It is, and that's what I'm talking about with the young guys. I don't harp at them, but I'm like, yeah, I do tell them, hey, this is how we used to have to do it. Not looking for sympathy, not looking, oh, our the way was harder, our life was harder than yours, nothing like that. But I do want them to respect and appreciate the technology that they have at their fingertips, because they got a lot.
So, do you think it's beneficial for a new surveyor to understand how to do the math the old way?
Absolutely, absolutely,
Because it's a fallback. It's a
absolutely.
check. It's
Yeah.
something they can use. Instruments make mistakes, and so do people.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to know how to check it.
No, I absolutely, that's what I was getting about earlier. I'm kind of glad that I had to kind of learn old school first, but now even with our guys, it isn't all high tech. We still do, we still make them pull a plumb bob out and make them chain distances every now and then, not daily, but we try to get them to understand, you know, the tools they have now, and appreciate what they have, and so kind of old school.
Yeah, I agree with the old school. In your time, you have some favorite projects you laid out?
Yeah. I did. w- I say we did a bathymetric survey from Key Largo to Key West, 167 canals, single frequency, no, I'm sorry, dual frequency echo sounder on a 16-foot boat. It took 6 months, and we started in Key Largo. And I don't know if you used to say you've been to the Keys. Well, there's not a lot of boat ramps.
No.
Every third house has a boat ramp, right? Those are all private.
Right.
So we'd have to find the closest boat ramp, put the boat in, and then go down the coast for sometimes miles. And then we would run just a single profile right down the center. This is for Monroe County, for the county bathymetric. That was a great job. Just spectacular.
And just so everyone knows, a bathymetric is
It's measured to the seafloor.
the seafloor.
It's a depth, fancy depth finder, expensive depth finder, basically, because it's dual frequency. So the high frequency bounces off first return, which is usually the foliage, and the low frequency goes to what they call saturation, and that's as deep as you can get. Usually down there, it's coral rock. So
Okay.
so it's a dual frequency. It gives you the separation between high and low frequency. And they were doing a muck. They were looking for muck. That's what it was. So
Did they find any?
yes, they did. There were several canals down there. The ones in Key Largo, Oceanside, most of them were fairly clean. You get down towards Sugarloaf, it's a bit more remote. A lot of those canals were absolutely packed with mud, 10,
Well,
12 feet.
Did they want to take it out, or they
Yes,
just?
they were looking for removal. Yeah, and this was 2007, so it's been a while back. Yeah, that's what they were looking. They wanted quantities. We just ran single line down the center of the canal. We didn't do full side scan sonar, but it was just to give them indicators of the canals that needed the most attention. And they started right after that. The next year, they were cleaning muck out. So,
I guess they were looking for the wash-in material.
yep.
Would that be the muck?
Well, yeah, and a lot of it too was the way the canals are situated. If they're on the leeward side with the prevalent wind blowing in, it pushes the stuff up to the end of the canal, and then it all settles at the end. So it's
That's
pretty
right. Tide coming in or
correct.
something. Yeah.
It was fascinating, and
Huh.
I absolutely enjoyed it. Um, Another one, I got to go to Ascension Island in the South Pacific. It's 8 degrees south of the equator between Africa and South America.
Yeah.
Um, it's an island, but it's actually classified as a vessel. It's a British vessel.
A vessel.
Yeah, it's HMS Ascension. It's an island. They classified it as a vessel because it was discovered in the 1600s accidentally.
So, what does a vessel mean to an island? If to me, when I think of a vessel, I'm looking for a boat that's
And
sunk.
that's what I'm getting at. It's an island, but it's classified by the British government as a vessel. But it's a dormant volcano. Fascinating place. Absolutely. I got to spend a month there. We went there for a large company that does basically communications. At the time, I was DoD certified, actually a DoD, OIA, OEA, all the airports, been on Army, Navy, Marine. Spent 2 years at Camp Lejeune. That's another one. But this Ascension Island was it's a dormant volcano, so we were tracking utilities, electric, uh, telephone, communications. Well, none of it's underground because it's a volcano, so it's all above ground. So we just basically set up GPS. And we mapped all the utilities for the United States Air Force Base there, and there's also a Royal Air Force Base adjacent to it.
Mm-hmm.
So we did all the communications, all the utilities for both bases. Absolutely fascinating.
It's just like I could go do that.
It was fascinating. It was amazing. And driving on the left side, the wrong side of the road, I guess.
Yeah.
Of course,
takes a while.
according to them, we drive on the wrong side. But yeah. And then we did the same thing in Antigua. I spent a month in Antigua. And then those were the ones of my favorites. But I did mention Camp Lejeune. We did, they built a new road all the way through Camp Lejeune, 7.3 miles. And we did all the stakeout. And we were on a Marine Corps base. This was back Desert Storm type.
7.3 miles. You had to make a new path.
Yes.
A new road.
Yeah.
Was it
It was
heavily
woods.
wooded, or
It was heavily wooded. Yeah.
so you had to cut line?
Well, we had what was called they had a machine that had GPS on it. We staked out the center line, and he went behind us, and it had a big drum with like fingers on it like this. And he would just pull up to a huge tree and just zzz into it, and it had like a bar that they just push it over, and then he go zzz, 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 and take the stump right out. It was amazing. Can't remember the name of the machine, but we staked out the line. He came behind us, and we kind of guided him. And yeah, 7.3. I was there 2.5 years on and off. But I will say this: my family is mostly military, police and military. But I've always had respect for the military. But I will say this: these are young guys, Marines. A lot of them were shipping out, and like I said, I've always had respect for them. But I gained a deeper respect for especially guys that were heading over to Kuwait or wherever they were going, because most of them that's where they were going. This is back in 2006, 2007.
Yeah.
But impressive. And then also another one would be Barrancas Air Force Base in North Florida, Pensacola. We did a job there. We were staking out for the Barrancas National Cemetery. Very somber job, staking out graves for the cemetery.
These were like locating actual graves, or
Staking out new graves. Yeah, and new plots for new graves.
Plots.
Was there a couple 3 weeks. Stayed up there because it's such a long drive. But every Wednesday morning, we'd be on site, and we were right at the end of the flight line, and the Blue Angels would take off, all 6 of them at once every Wednesday morning. All 6 of them take off at one time. They go right over our heads, and we just sit there and watch the show. It was amazing.
It's something to see.
Fabulous. And I love jets anyway. And it's just astounding. And the first time it happened, nobody warned us. And all of a sudden we hear this roar, and it was 6 jets at once.
Right over.
Yeah. And they went over our heads, and then we were like, what is going on? I didn't know, are we going to war? What is this? Then I realized it's the Blue Angels. And yeah, we got to watch their whole show every Wednesday morning. Impressive. And then I'm glad I got a chance to do a job like that too, because those people, it's a cemetery, and they're very particular. You don't throw any garbage. You're on your best behavior at all times. And the people that took care of those stones, you get there's tens of thousands of white gravestones, and they're all perfectly arrow straight. Well, there's a reason. There's a crew that's all they do.
Keep them straight.
That's all they do. Every day they're out there making sure everything's straight, making sure everything's clean. Impressive. But and I see why. Those. The military gets my respect. And that's all I'm going to say there.
Very regimented. Well, earlier today you mentioned the CST, Certified Surveyor and Training,
Yes,
and
correct.
that you were involved in it.
I didn't plan on it, but as a company, we had applied to do some work for City of Orlando, and they're very particular. And we got rejected. And some of my bosses were very upset and wanting to know why we got rejected. Well, it wasn't because we weren't qualified. It's because we didn't have enough CST level 2 and 3. We have multiple level 1. which
And what's the difference? But what would a person at level 1 be doing? What would a person at level 2 be doing than a person at level 1? What would be the difference in the capabilities?
um, as far as day to day, probably not much different. You want more money? We give you $1 an hour for every one of these tests that you pass. So you pass level 1, you get $1 an hour. Pass level 2, another $1 an hour, automatic. So the thing is, it's level 1's more history, safety, more general. A lot of it's more of a broad scope. I personally haven't taken those. I took the state board, which is a little different. Basically, I took all 4 of the CST tests in 2 days. That was 26 years ago. But people have told me that they think level 1 is harder than level 2, which is possible. I think they're trying to weed out undesirables, maybe, or just thin out the crowd. I don't know, but level 2 is a lot more geometry, more math, some theory. Level 3 is much more difficult, and level 4 is like a college dissertation. I have a young guy friend of mine that just passed level 4, and he said, "Mark, I'm just so glad I never have to do that again." He said it was ridiculous. And he doesn't have a 4-year degree. He can't get licensed in Florida. So he's going to North Carolina, wants to get his license because you don't have to have a 4-year degree, and also get licensed in Washington State. And I said, well, you've just had a child. You live in Florida. He said, no, I'm not moving. He said, but I'll have that PSM after my name, even if it's not in Florida. That's going to get me more money. And he's right.
True.
But the CST, like I said, one of our big dogs was very upset, and they came to me and said, why don't we have more people CST certified? And I said, well, it's not my baby. And then I said, oh, maybe it is now. Now is it my baby? And that's what happened. They asked me, and they were nice about it. They were like, Mark, could you help with this? And I said, yes, I'll
So you
help.
became a mentor for that CST.
Apparently, yes. This was recent. This was like within the last couple of weeks. So
Yeah.
I've been working on building a curriculum, kind of. I don't want to overwhelm the guys. And we were talking earlier about with the tests like this, it's you against the test, but it's also you against the clock. So I want to concentrate more on strategies, time management, and
On how they could be more efficient for the
correct.
test.
And the thing with these guys, and when you're a surveyor, you're doing time management every day. Every minute of every day is time. You get on a job site, you take a look around, you're like, there's no way I'm going to get this done in the amount of time they gave me. So I'm going to have to not cut corners. We don't want to cut corners, but I have to utilize the time I have and maximize it. And it's similar. I know it's a written test. Some people just aren't good at taking tests, but if you utilize and maximize your time to the best of your advantage, you're going to have a better outcome, better shot at passing. So that's my deal now. I'm a CST. I mean, I'm not a certified trainer, but I guess the fact that I have a license circumvents that. I don't know.
Well, teaching the next generation is important.
It is. I take that seriously.
Yeah,
I
and
really do.
it's something that, and I've said it a number of times in our podcast. You got to feed the animals behind you so that they can grow up and become the next generation. And your legacy is to leave 2, 3, 4, 5, a dozen or more behind that grow from what you've mentored them with.
Absolutely, and also it's basically also kind of paying homage to the people that taught me.
Yeah.
I like the Ben Blackburns and the Tom Jennings and the Michael Jones and the Chip Gardners and the people that really brought me along, that taught me kind of hard school. They weren't. I mean, they weren't mean or anything, but they didn't.
They didn't.
No,
They didn't hold back.
They had high expectations. That's the modern term, high expectations.
Well,
So,
it's real world teaching, because it's not trying to soften it or deliver to make it soft for you to accept. This is the way it is, and here's what can help you. It's real world teaching.
and I've tried to utilize the same. I try to go with a kinder, gentler, but you still have to be stern. You still have to have expectations,
Have to push.
yeah, and I've gotten good response. I really have. I've thought for sure that I would get pushback, and I have not. I've gotten a real good response. Went to we have 30 field crews, and have now gone to the majority, almost all of them, and almost all the young guys. I've got like 35 guys that are wanting to take CST level 1. So I'm going to work on level 1, but I need level 2 first so we don't get burned by the city of Orlando, because it's lucrative to get jobs with the city of Orlando. It's because it's local and they pay their bills. And some of them are really interesting jobs. So
I just find it amazing that the CST one, and some people are wanting CST twos. With you mentioned the differences, history and some math and
Yep.
different things. I'd be curious as to find what the value is for the CST2 to the city. That's just a question that I would have myself.
This is just an honest opinion from myself. I think it's their way of minimizing the amount of people they have to deal with. They're like, these are our standards. If you can't meet our standards, then don't bother us. I think
True.
that's how they are. And I could be wrong, but it isn't just that. There's a lot of jobs that we can't even bid on because we don't have enough CST 3 and 4, 2, 3, and 4 levels.
Is that common for a lot of surveyors? CST 2, 3, and 4.
It is. It is, and not as much as it used to be. It has become a lot more emphasis on it, not just from people like me, from the companies. That's why they have the incentive. You pass this test, you get. Now, let's say you do your review every year, and you get. We have a 1 through 5 review system. Let's say you get all 3s, 4s, maybe some 5s. You might get 33 cents, 48 cents an hour, 64 cents an hour. If you get all, it mattering, depending on what you make. We'll go take this test and we'll give you $1 right away. And then if you study and can pass another one, we'll give you another $1. Actually, we also give $1 immediately, $1 an hour to get your drone license too. So, and also the company pays for all that. We'll pay for the training, we'll pay for the license as long as you pass the test, and then you get a raise. So try to give an incentive. But yes, there is a lot more, especially when you're dealing with government agencies. There is a lot more emphasis on the CST, and it's what do they call it? There's a name for it. It's basically you're showing what your capabilities. Oh, we have this many people level 1, or we have several level 1. We don't have any level 2, and I didn't know that.
I can see where a lot of the certifications are important, especially if you're laying out a building.
Yeah.
And
Excuse me.
I have, I've been on jobs where we've laid out the building and they brought in a Trimble unit, and the guy said, your building's 10 foot off because I'm running out of, he was setting poke throughs in the floor and the building was in a radius. It looked like the pi symbol, so to speak. And he said he was running out off the deck with him in the la la land outside the building. And I said, dude, there's no way this building's 10 foot off, because if it was 10 foot off, when I put it in, it'd be like 2 feet from that building up there. And fortunately, I'd had a surveyor come out once we came out of the ground and we got our first pour on the level 2 done. I had it checked to make sure exactly where we're at, because I checked it with the footings, I checked it with the columns, and then I checked it with the corners. And we were within an inch of perfect. So
that's not
pretty,
one you want to get wrong.
465,000 square feet. I thought that was actually pretty accurate.
Yeah, you don't want to get that one wrong.
No. And I have had surveyors come and put control lines down for me, and they walk across the building. But the math had been, something was not calculated totally together or on the same documents we use, and it became off. But you have to be sharp enough to keep an eye out for those little items.
It's easy to make mistakes. And also the part of the problem with that is now, because we have AutoCAD and we have all these other things involved, sometimes we've had the same issue where we've staked out a building in Mineola. I'm not going to mention names, but the elevator shaft is, again, I won't mention any names. Elevator shaft ended up being about a foot in the wrong spot. And they threw a fit and they were going to sue us. And come to find out that the CAD drawing that they sent us, that they told us to use, that's where the elevator shaft was.
Wasn't updated.
Correct.
I've been there, seen that one.
Yeah, that is correct. So the pitfalls are there. At every turn, there's a chance to get burned or make a mistake. but that's part of the challenge. And on that particular one, they backed off, said, okay, we're going to adjust to fit the elevator shaft. So they basically, it was in kind of a hallway. They were able to, they didn't move the building, but they moved everything to fit the shaft because the shaft went up first. And they tried to blame us, but it wasn't us.
I noticed it was an error in the drawing.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting from your career, from your dad in HVAC, your mom doing her business, and all the things that you've gone through, some of your struggles in life, and your recovery from the struggles, and then moving up through the drafting process and the surveying, and working as a chef for a little while. But how many years now have you been a surveyor?
I've been surveying 34 years. I've been licensed 26.
So 34 years as a surveyor, that stands to show that effort, drive, dream, and ethics. You have gone through challenges, corrected things, made your life better, and had a successful career.
And enjoyed it.
And enjoying, and you're still going.
I-
Now you're mentoring younger people to
Yeah.
bring them up through the craft. And for that, I appreciate that. And for our viewers, all those out there that take the time to mentor individuals, I'd like to say thank you. And
I agree.
Mark, thank you for being here today and talking with us. I appreciate it very much.
Well, thanks for having me.
This is Joe with another edition of Joe on the Job Site.